Hi, I'm Tom from Red's Radio Controlled Models. Thank you for joining me for the build review of the Freewing 80mm Avanti, designed alongside Seb. This kit features an 80mm 12 blade EDF unit with an 1850 kV outrunner. Unlike the MiG-21, which has got an 1800, this has a little bit more punch, which is great for short field takeoffs, grass takeoffs, and all round brilliant flight performance. This aircraft features full trainer link undercarriage, split flaps, all metal gear digital servos all round, and it flies off a 6-cell 5000mA pack to 4000. I'm running mine off a desired power 5000mA 6-cell 35C, just to keep the weight down, but it still has the punch that we need and will still give reasonable-ish flight times. The kit, as you can see, is a reasonable size for an 80mm fan, but it's light, so it will be able to cope with those rougher fields without any problem at all. And as you can see, the undercarriage on here is really well sprung. Your sequence, it has sequencing nose gear doors, a detachable nose which is great for storage, and loads of other features which we'll go through when we go through the video. So thank you for joining me, and I'll catch you during the build video. So the first thing to do on the kit, in the instructions it does say to put the wings on first, however I don't particularly agree with that. I think the most important thing to get on is the tail first and the vertical stabiliser, because then if you do have the wings on, you're trying to move it around and you're not going to knock it and damage it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to route these two wires through the fuselage all the way up here. That will then go into the canopy. Don't worry about that so far, we'll get to that bit in a bit. But you've got to make sure that when you route the wires through, that the wires sit over the top of the speed control into this little spline up here. If it sits underneath, then the wires will get sucked into the fan. So all you need to do is, as you can see, you've got your hole under there where your fin sits on. Just push it on at the front and on the back, and it should be a nice tight fit over the back. You can see there's a nice glass spar joining there, and there's also a carbon spar running through the tail there. This part actually acts as your thrust tube as well, which is a quite nice little bit that they've done there. Then all you need to do is use 4 of the normal headed screws and the top just to screw it down. Once you've done that and you've got your wires routed into these 2 channels here and here, make sure you pull these 2 wires nice and tight through the fuselage, and then it's time to put the vertical stabiliser on. Same again, it just slots in, you've got your wire in a bundle, the wire needs to be pulled through the fuselage. So now I've got the vertical stabiliser pushed with the wire all the way through. Just put it tight as you're putting it on, and make sure those 2 elevator servo wires are put through the channels in the horizontal stabiliser. If they're not quite right, then what will happen is it will just tend to not sit particularly flush. So just pop them in. As you're putting them on, make sure it's sitting in the channels as it should do, and then it should be a nice tight fit up to the back like that, and then just push it gently into place. There we go. That's the tail nicely in place there. There's then 4 screws to fasten this tail on. You've got the 2 at the front and then the 2 right at the back here and here. So all you've got to do is screw those in as we have done before. Once you've got all the tail on and your wires are all routed, the next thing is to plug it into this control board in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out from this control board, to get the wires underneath of this battery tray, I'm going to take these 4 screws out. What this will allow me to do is get the elevator and the rudder wires underneath of this tray, just to keep that wiring just that little bit nicer. So now with the servo tray out, you see you've got this nice little run in the centre of the fuselage. So move the battery wire out of the way, and then just run all the wires that you've got into this slot. Like that. So the next thing to do once you've got the wires all the way through is to plug in the wires that you've just pulled out. So move the wires that are all cable tied together just out of the way for a second so that you don't get confused with those wires. So you've got 3 wires, they're all labelled up, so you've got one elevator, one rudder, and then you've got a different coloured servo wire. The different coloured servo wire is your other elevator. So they've made it nice and clear so you don't get confused. You've got on this control board in here, I'll just pull these wires back so you can see, you've got 3 pins left over. So you've got your elevator on the top pin and your aileron, your rudder on the top pin, and then your elevators on the bottom 2 pins. So the signal wire, which is the orange wire, or on the case of the black and white wire, is the white wire, goes to the outside pins there, and then you've got your positive and negative there. So all you need to do is just plug them in the right direction. And then once that's done, it's all ready to go on tail end. So the next thing to do is to install the wing. So you'll have your main wing coming out of the kit with the rear spar, and then you'll have the bigger spar that is within the foam in the kit. All you need to do is push the carbon spar into the fuselage like that, and in this little pocket in here you'll find what we call a ribbon cable, which just looks like a balance port on a connector. So what you need to do is push the wing in so that you can get the connector close enough to the port. It just needs to be a little bit closer. And then once it's close enough, it does have little pins on the top so you can't get it in the wrong way around. And then you just push it in to there, like so. There we go. That is now the whole wing connected up to that main control board at the front, which makes it really easy to get your wings on and off at the flying field. Then all you need to do is just tweak it up so that you can push it up flush against the wing like that. Once you've done that on the underside, you should see that you have 2 screw holes. You've got the one there, and then you've got another one just underneath here. Freewing obviously have decided to miss that bit out, so just take the tape off like that, and that will show the little screw holes underneath. Now the screws, this is one thing I'm not so keen on, have got a little bit of Loctite on them. That little bit of Loctite will mean that the wings will be more and more difficult to get off as it's been pushed in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it in and then take it back out, just so that it doesn't stick. So once you've done that, the next thing to do is to put all of the control linkages on. Now please follow the manual instructions for the control settings, as they're right in the manual to how it should fly. So you've obviously got one of your ball link control rods like that, and you've got a swing keeper. As per all the other videos that I've done, they just go on exactly the same. So you've got 3 different sizes. You've got 2 55mm long ones, and a 63mm long one, and a 48mm long one. Now it's really important that you take a note of all the lengths, because if you don't, you'll get completely wrong sort of control throws. So you should have in your bag, you've got a short one, a medium length one, and a long one. Let's just find the short one, which is, there's your 2 mediums. There we go. So once you've got them all on, your short ones at the 55, there for your elevator, your ailerons are 63mm, and your flap is 55, as well as the elevator push rod is 55. Before you put these on, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to connect your radio to the plane and centre all the servos, because as you'll see, all the servos that are in here are actually in the pockets. So first thing you need to do is centre all the servos so you can get a nice centre point on your radio. That's it for the build review of the Freewing 80mm Avanti designed by Seb. As you can see, when it's all together, it is a stunning piece of kit. It's a little bit smaller than the Stinger 90, but not much. The power from the 80mm fan that's in this gives it nearly unlimited vertical and great performance off of grass, which is what it's predominantly designed to be able to cope with. As you can tell by the video, it's a really easy kit to put together. The wings slide on, the tail glue screws on, and the vertical glue screws on, and you just connect it all at the front. The receiver, you only need a 6-channel, just so you can get all the functions working, but the control board deals with everything else. I'm using all of the stock centre of gravity and control throws that are in the manual, and they seem to work pretty well. The elevator, that has a little bit of mixing for the flap. The flaps on this are really effective and tend to balloon the nose, so it's 1 to 2 millimeters of down elevator when you're deploying the flaps. I've got that mixed in and also on a switch, just in case for some unknown reason if I'm downwind I don't want that nose to be pushed down too much. So I've got that all set. The only thing I will say is before you move all the control surfaces with your servo, please move them by hand. The reason being is they're quite stiff from the factory because of the foam hinge that's on top of the nylon hinges. So just move them by hand, and that means you won't strip any of the servos that are in this kit. I'm going to be doing a flight review on this very shortly, and I'll be flying it on one of the Desire Power 5035Cs. The battery fits in here an absolute treat, and if I show you the position that it fits in this massive bay is just there. So as you can tell, it's a perfect fit and gives you really good flight performance and centre of gravity. Also give you a little bit more flight time than the 4000 that everybody else is recommending. So as you can see, everything is absolutely stunning. You've got your lovely working lights, you've got split flaps underneath, which if I just turn it around here I can show you. There we go. There you can see they work absolutely lovely. You've obviously got your full retracts and a steerable nose wheel, all trailing link undercarriage, so it can cope with a little bit rougher terrain than normal sort of EDF jets. This thing is going to be an absolute winner, especially with the magnetic nose so you can store it on its nose. So that's it for the build review of the Avanti 80mm. Hopefully I'll catch you at the flying field.